This is Saskia, and this is Note to Self, your weekly dose of everything that's simply too long to text. Consider this your personal invitation into my inner circle, where I share my thoughts, feelings, and quiet reflections that usually live inside my Notes app. Thanks for joining me. Alrighty. Hello, my Note to Self listeners. Nice to see you, or see you. You see me. I don't know, guys. It's always weird starting a podcast. Where to begin? I nearly did it again. I literally was about to say the words, "It's a beautiful sunny day here in New York." Maybe this should just be an ongoing bit that the intro of every podcast I do, I just comment on the weather. It's called Saskia's Weather Corner. So today, letting you guys know, gorgeous day in New York, although the pollen is fucking nuts and in there it's literally covering all the windows and my allergies have been nuts. Well, they were fine up until yesterday and then they started to go crazy. Oh, the joys of 4 seasons, not something I was used to growing up. But anyways, what's been going on with my week? Really, this week has been encompassed by AI. Literally, AI. I just can't stop thinking about it. Can't stop playing around with the platform that I'm using. I have become so obsessed with Claude and learning just all the best ways that it can help streamline my life, because girl, I don't know how we can possibly do it all. I am feeling just so overwhelmed with just too many things to do. And I'm thinking of ways that I can use AI, like I said, to streamline or automate different things so then I can focus more on the creative stuff and have it automate some of my emails or even flagging emails for me, because you just get so many fucking junk emails, but flag important ones and helping craft responses. But, I think eventually we'll get to a stage where I like to think it will be handling all those mundane tasks. So then we do have more time to just kind of do the things that we want to do. Wishful thinking, but technology is moving very fast. There's always going to be things we don't want to do. But I have to think that the power of us as humans is our creativity, our strategic brain. And I think it's having Claude do all those, or whatever AI tool do all those day-to-day things, and then you spend more time doing this, or talking and conceptualizing and coming up with, creative ideas. To me, that seems like that has to be the way it's going, or at least that's what I hope. But my friend gave me some really good advice. She's been deep in LLMs for quite a while, or as long as you can be. But she came over and she was saying that it's kind of like the AI wars right now. So at first everyone was using ChatGPT, and then I think it was Gemini that people moved to, and now the big thing is Claude. But they're all kind of racing against each other. So the biggest thing you can do is learn a tool fast, set it up to be useful, but as soon as it stops becoming useful, be ready to pivot and move to the next big tool that is upcoming, because they're all kind of racing against each other, trying to get the best technology. And she was just kind of being don't get married to one tool, and just be ready to move fast and make the necessary changes so you're always capitalizing on the effectiveness of that said tool. And I said this last week, but if you aren't using an LLM, go and start doing it now. Also, LLM, large language model, AI. Claude is my fave at the moment. And I'm going to share in the show notes, because I realized I didn't do it last week, this course that my other friend recommended. I think it's she only did the first 4 hours, she said, but she was it was so beneficial. I think it was $40 or something. So I'll link it, because my plan is to start that. But I just cannot tell you how helpful it is. It helps me so much with my podcast in terms of just the strategy and even editing tips and tricks, social stuff. It's so unbelievably helpful. I just cannot say it enough. And I just feel it's the future. Well, clearly it is, but we all just need to capitalize on it early. And in other news, for those who are working on creative projects, I really see you, because I think this tool is incredibly helpful. Even not creative projects, whatever your side hustle is, it's so helpful for that. It becomes your kind of mini coworker. And just know that I'm going through that as well because it's so hard to do it alone and it just takes so much work. And I'm having one of those weeks where I'm just exhausted. And I was so excited to get up this morning and like prep the podcast and record for you guys today because I love doing this. But man, oh man, it can be really fucking exhausting when you're also working full time because you're having to dedicate majority of your time to your full-time job whilst also trying to make space to think creatively for your side hustle. So for those out there that are working on something as well as their full-time job, I see you. I'm here for you. Keep at it because the one thing that people keep saying to me is consistency will get you there. I had a really interesting meeting actually this week with a podcast producer who's a friend of a friend. And he was telling me, he was just like, it could take 3 months, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, 3 years, but like consistency pays off and doing the little things you can to get your channels, the best that they can be looking and just like certain little strategies that you can use. There are, totally lost my train of thought. Essentially though, just consistency pays off. So I think that's kind of for most things. And I even remember when I was acting, that was something that I remember our acting coaches would always say is like, if you're in it for the long haul, like stick in it because so many people, tap out. Hell, I was one of those people that tapped out, but I'm glad I did because I was meant to do this. So keep listening, guys. Oh, also go subscribe on YouTube because I learned that YouTube is apparently the best place for podcasts now. So I already put my stuff on YouTube, but I'm going to start jazzing up that channel a bit. So keep your eyes peeled for some fun little YouTube as I say, updates. Looking forward to it. Now, diving in, I wanted to kick things off with a new little reoccurring segment, which I think I've kind of been touching on anyways, as you probably would have picked up, but it's my pop culture pick of the week. And because you all know I'm a big pop culture fan, I love to consume it. I love to talk about it. I love to create it. I love TV, film, art, music, books, reality TV. Give it all to me. I'm obsessed with pop culture. It's literally everything I love in life. It's art. Anyways, so I wanted to do my little pop culture picks of the week. And this week, you guys are so lucky because I have two. It's been a good week for pop culture. So kicking things off with the first pop culture pick of the week. I would be remiss not to speak about this, even though a lot of people are speaking about it, but it is the biggest pop culture drama right now, I would say. And for those who don't know about this, strap in. Imagine this. You spend 6 years, every summer, living in a house in the Hamptons with a group of strangers who become your closest friends. One summer, a new guy appears. There's a spark, natural banter, and a deep connection starts to form. However, with many men, the man gets too big for his boots. It all becomes too real, and he bails on the girl who was always too good for him anyways. Fast forward 2 years later, these two have continued spending summers at the house with much tension, but slowly rebuilding the friendship. And the girl has her close friend of 6 years by her side, always helping her and supporting her. And after the summer, this friend of hers has gone through a divorce and she's always been her supporter, given her advice, helped her get out of her marriage that was clearly no longer serving her. And what does our girl get in return? Her friend starts dating the guy she had fallen for 2 years prior. The guy who had continued to flirt with her for the last 2 summers. And what makes it even worse, they kept it a secret. And that, my friends, if you did not recognize my story here, is what happened on the iconic reality TV show, Summer House. Sierra Miller is our main girl, our queen. West Wilson is the avoidant man-child. And I will never be someone who hates on women. So Amanda Batula is the selfish friend. Not a great friend, but I'm not going to hate on her. Don't really like what she did, but she is the other element of this story. So look, these people are real, and this is not a story, but we have seen these things happen before. But this kind of narrative, or I guess real life scenario, has consumed so many media outlets since it surfaced a few weeks ago. I've been watching all of it, and I only got into Summer House what was it? I think it was last year. I was really late to the game, and I want to go back and rewatch it. But I obviously love Giggly Squad. I think Paige DeSorbo and Hannah Berner are great. They're no longer on the show, but they, came from that world. And Sierra is gorgeous. But anyways, last week, Sierra finally spoke out about what had happened in what I think was like the classiest way to respond, because everyone was kind of looking at her Instagram, waiting for her to say something. For those who don't know the story, Amanda and West released a joint statement on Instagram, essentially confirming that they were dating. And everyone's been waiting for Sierra to speak out. And what she did is she did one interview with a magazine, not a podcast, not a social media post. It was just old school written interview by a journalist called Hunter Harris for Glamour magazine. She also has a podcast. Go look her up. Her stuff's really cool. And there was a gorgeous editorial shoot to accompany the article. And I just thought it was such a choice and a really strong one and just a very classy one. And I liked this kind of like old school journalism expose. It was so good. When I saw the cover, I was like, I'm fucking eating all this up. I was obsessed. Again, I'll link it in the show notes, but you've probably seen it everywhere. If you listen to this podcast, I'm sure you're following some of this stuff. But I thought the article was very raw. It was vulnerable, and it really focused on Sierra and her experience as a Black woman on reality TV and in this world. And I liked that it didn't focus as much on Amanda and West. And it was really about Sierra's journey. And what I think she's trying to do is utilize all of this like attention that's on her right now for messages that she actually wants to push through, and sharing information that's important for people to understand and giving visibility to things that really matter. They referenced that I think the day after the joint statement came out, Sierra posted on her Instagram, I think it was like a Save the Dolls post, and then something about Girl Scouts as well. And she was saying, that was the first thing I wanted to post. I knew there was a lot of eyes on my Instagram, so I thought, why not draw it to an important message? And this season of Summer House also spoke a lot about her and KJ's experiences of being Black people on Summer House, something I will not speak to because that is not something that I would ever understand, but I found the article really interesting, and I really loved that was something that they spoke about. But there was something in the article that I wanted to call out, and I thought it was really interesting and it really resonated with me. And Hunter, the journalist, asked Sierra, "You get a lot of grief, and I think unfairly, for your taste in men. How does it feel?" And Sierra answered, "I do feel like I get a lot of grief for dating people. But here's the thing. I've only technically dated 2 people publicly. For people to make a really roundabout statement about my taste based on 2 people is annoying and frustrating. I'm trying to figure out dating. Why do we put this pressure on young women like it's our fault for not seeing who this person was immediately? It's not our fault for having bad taste in men, when men often present themselves as one way for the first 3 months and then completely end up being someone totally different." Girl, we know I love the clicks. That was just, what a summary. Because something that I find really interesting about reality TV is I think we as a society feel that we can judge these people as if we know them because it's quote unquote reality, making these like overarching statements about who we think these people are at their core. And look, don't get me wrong. Watching these shows and judging the behavior of the people on them is part of the fun. But I think when the judgment expands beyond your living room to online hate towards these people, or in real life hate, I'm out on that. And, Sierra's not the only person in the world to have dated a guy who turned out to be an asshole. And she shouldn't be labeled because of that. Hell, I've dated probably 10 of those types of guys. And it's just part of the dating experience. It's part of finding out who you are, being more discernible, knowing your value and your worth. And I appreciated that she kind of shared that and the reality of the situation. Like, why are women being judged for that? And also that's kind of even what's happening in this scenario is I think like West is getting a lot less hate than Amanda. And it's like, dude, he's the one. I mean, she fucked up badly. It's her best friend. But come on, man, like let's equal out the burden here. They're both in the wrong. So I just wanted to call that out because I think that when consuming all of this drama I always remind myself these are real people and I'm never going to know the nuances of the story. And I don't really know who they are. And I can enjoy it and talk about it and have fun with it. But let's have a level of reality here as well. But I mean, the whole scenario, it does beg the question, when would it ever be okay to date your friend's ex? And I've thought about this at length. And the only reasonable answer that I could come to is if your friend died. And I brought this up at a girls' dinner and a lot of my friends disagreed. But then some of them also agreed with me. Which is touch wood. This is so dark that hopefully this never happens. But I was thinking about the TV show Shrinking, when Jimmy and Gabby, who are the two main characters, Jimmy has lost his wife, Gabby was the wife's best friend. They end up sleeping together. It was like a year or so after the wife has passed. And look, it was a short-term thing, but they found comfort in each other and mourning their loss and in her memory. And I mean, part of me was like, maybe I'd prefer that. Like, touch wood again. I don't even want to put that out there. But like, would I really be mad if my partner ended up with a friend of mine if I passed? And I was like, probably not, because it's like they're thinking about your memory. Surely it's like memorializing you through their connection, which I actually think is really beautiful. And our friends are like mirrors of ourselves. They're similar to ourselves. Like, no shit. But I think what the issue is here, because like, let's not wish for that. Putting that all aside, because that's a very random thing to be in that scenario. But I honestly don't think in any other scenario it's fair, because I don't believe we have one person to be with in this life. I think there are multiple people for us, and you choose who you want to be with, and then you work at it, and you could have multiple choices, but you do make a decision. It's not a given, and it's not just like someone just like falls into your lap. Like, I think you I'm not making sense. I'm saying is like there's multiple different people, but you choose the one that you want, and it takes work. So this idea of like love at first sight, I don't necessarily believe in. That's what I was trying to get to, guys. Send help. It's a rough day. So anyways, for this whole Amanda and Wes scenario, in their statement, they said, and I quote, "What developed recently was the last thing either of us expected." And to me, that's just bullshit, because I don't think something can develop out of nowhere. I think that they made a choice to be together. And I feel like if you really cared about the person and your best friend and the woman who you dated 2 years ago and then have continuously been flirting with and telling the cameras that you still, will always have feelings for her, how are you two now dating? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think it's like a very selfish sentiment. And I feel like if you easily could have just not made that choice and to walk away and just take a beat. And honestly, if the feelings are still there in a year, then maybe then it's something worth pursuing, but you handle it in such a different way. You bring the person into the story, you talk to them. And from what I can tell, and from what even Sierra said in her interview, seemingly she wasn't really included in this conversation at all. And it just feels very shady and selfish. And I really don't vibe with that. And I just think that like, oh, they're feelings that we can't walk away from. It's like, well, you can, because you could probably find them somewhere else. And also, again, if you're going to do this much damage, give it like a year, or 6 months, and just like see if it's still there. Anyways, my listeners, that's my take on Summer House. So lots to unpack there. But shout out to Sierra. You're gorgeous. Keep doing you, boo. This is only going to be great for you. And I'm so excited to see what's next. And keep being authentic. Ugh, love how I don't even know her. She probably won't even see this, but maybe you will. If you do, love you. Shout out. Anyways, I'm also living for her style. I cannot. She is such a good stylist and also clearly like a good sense of fashion herself. Moving on, because my next pop culture moment is Sabrina Carpenter's second week performance at Coachella with none other than Madonna, who, to the date of this performance, 20 years ago, Madonna did a surprise performance at Coachella to promote Confessions on a Dance Floor, which was her album. And she was one of the first major mainstream artists to play the festival, which I thought was really interesting, and what a beautiful kind of full circle moment. And she returned to Coachella as part of Sabrina Carpenter's show together. And they sang Vogue, Like a Prayer, and a new song from her upcoming album, Confessions 2, which is called I Feel So Free. And I thought this is just such an iconic moment in pop culture, in pop music history and also pop culture, blending someone who really a historical, incredible figure in pop music who really just paved the way for, a current star like Sabrina Carpenter to be who she is today. She's the one that probably so many of them look up to. And also Madonna is still killing it. So I felt seeing that recognition of a younger artist recognizing someone who was probably very much inspired her and also as a new album is coming out is just so powerful. And I also loved this. Madonna wore the same corset, boots, and jacket that she wore in her performance 20 years ago, which just shows no matter what age you are, you can throw on a sexy corset, her little mini skirt thing, thigh-high boots, and shake your ass in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So thank you, Madonna, for that. I did have a thought, though, when watching some of the clips from the show the next day. And I specifically found this clip from someone in the audience, and it was showing their reaction, their live reaction when they realized Madonna was coming out. And just the joy that you could see from this person. And I started to cry. It just brought me to tears because it made me think how music just brings us all together. And I can imagine the joy that Sabrina and Madonna also must have felt, just seeing all these faces light up in the crowd, these huge smiles, and just feeling that joy and excitement, and just being so dialed into that moment in time. And the fact that their performance gave them that, you gave the people that, what an incredible feeling that must be. And I feel like it was a really beautiful representation of what art does to us and how it brings us together, which beautifully leads me into my topic today. Echoing on music, I really want to discuss the 3 reasons I love the rave scene. Stay with me, guys. It's a vibe, this one. So tonight I'm going to one of my fave venues in New York called the Knockdown Center. And in the summer, it's so fun. They do these Sunday shows because they have an outdoor space called The Ruins. Jeffrey's and my second date was at this venue as well, actually. And it's just a great spot. Then they even have, there's a club at the bottom of Knockdown Center basement. And it's the Berghain of North America. I mean, it's not really because let's be real, it'll never be Berghain. But it is trying to do that. And it's a pretty cool spot, I would say. It's a little wild. But anyways, we're going to just the main music area, or the main music hall. I don't fucking know, guys. We're seeing an old school electronic music duo called Groove Armada. If you don't know them, you would probably know a lot of their music. They've been around forever. And I was just thinking about the rave scene. I haven't gone dancing in a while. And I was just really craving it. And I was thinking about why I love it so much. So I wanted to share my top 3 reasons why I love the rave scene. So the first reason I love the rave scene is the community. There's something just so special about people who attend raves. I think it's the strongest sense of community I've felt at any type of music-based show. And maybe it's the feeling that draws these people to a rave, which I think is kind of liberation and freedom. There's this feeling you get when a DJ is kind of building you up and you're building to this kind of release. And I think there's something so cathartic about dancing in this way. And you move slowly and then you kind of let it all out. And there's just this wildness. And I really feel always this deep, energetic release. And I think this builds a really interesting community. And this unspoken recognition that you're all here for the same reason. And I was looking into this a little bit further, actually, because I was intrigued if there's actually other people that feel this way. And apparently there's actually research that shows that moving in synchrony with other people, especially people you don't know, increases this feeling of connection and social bonding. So I think that's why oftentimes I kind of feel like everyone around me when I'm at a rave, even people I don't speak to, they're kind of like my friends. It's you kind of, smile, you acknowledge the people around you, and it feels this kind of joint connection. And I builds this really beautiful community that I haven't experienced outside of rave culture. I mean, sure, certain shows, but it's just different because it's kind of in most shows I go to. And I'll never forget that Fred Again show when it was just Jeffrey and I. So you really did get to see people around you. And my favorite song, Beto's Horns, came on and I lost my goddamn mind. And I just remember I was like running around to the people around me and just like shaking, losing my mind. And you just felt this sense of camaraderie and everyone was like, this is amazing. And I just feel like it really does create this very connected community and people look out for each other as well. So for new ravers, if you're going to a show, you should acknowledge this and be part of the community. Smile at the people dancing next to you, talk to people, and give back to the community. It's not like going to like a normal club or like your local dive bar, even though I know dive bars, you do chat to people. It's just a different feeling. And I think don't feel like you need to like diminish people's light around you. Like let go, fall into it. It's such a fun experience. So that's my reason number one. The second reason I love the rave scene is the energy at a rave. It just feels so cathartic. I cannot express that enough. I think the energy honestly stems from dancing. And they say that when you dance for hours, you release a significant amount of endorphins and serotonin. So it's similar to what people experience with a runner's high, which when I read that, I was like, damn, I've never understood a runner's high. I hate running. I mean, like I'll run on a treadmill, but like Jeffrey will take me for a run. I'm like, I don't like this. But you do get a high when you're dancing. And I think as humans, we pick up the emotions of people around us. So if everyone's kind of in this flow state, it creates a sense of relaxation. And with it, I think there's joy. And I've experienced that firsthand. And I've been to some raves where, you know, we were in this one spot and the energy just felt a little intense, a little chaotic, and it just didn't feel grounded. And everyone kind of like looked at each other like, do you want to move? And there was like 8 of us there. So we all moved somewhere else to a different area around a different group of people. And it just felt so much better. So it also shows it's really like the people who you're around and how you can kind of tune into that. And I know this sounds really woo-woo, but let me tell you a really interesting story of something in practice where I really think that this proves that this is right. So when I was younger, taking acting classes, I think I was in high school, we did this exercise where you partnered up with another actor and one person sat in a chair, kind of like how I'm sitting now, and the other person stood behind them. So imagine someone standing behind me. And the person standing behind had their hands kind of out. So imagine their hands like here on my head. For those who are not on video, it's like 30 centimeters from my head. And they had both their hands out near my head. And you both closed your eyes, and the person sitting down had to think of a story in their life that elicited a really strong emotion. So maybe it was a fight you got in with your mom, or maybe it was a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you're in love with, or, you know, something that made you really sad, like any type of thing that has happened in your life that elicited a strong emotion. So the person sitting down is thinking about that emotion, almost like you're bringing it all up and then you're kind of like pushing it outside of your body in a way. Like whenever I think about this, it's like I'm pushing the emotions out of my body and it's silent. You're not saying anything. I think we did it maybe for 5 minutes and the other person's just standing there with their hands out. And we switched roles. So I've experienced both roles. And I remember when I was standing behind the person, had my hands out and I can't remember what emotion it was because it was so long ago, but I remember feeling like whatever the emotion was, maybe let's say it was anger, and I felt it in my own body. It was wild. And I was like, why am I all of a sudden angry? And then after the exercise, we all had to go around and the person standing up had to say the emotion that they were like sensing from the other person. And then they had to confirm if that was it and what they were thinking about. And I think there was 6 groups and every single like pair was correct. And it was just the most wild experience. And it really made me realize that we do have these energetic fields around us. And that's also the external chakra systems. I've spoken about that on the pod before. So it's no surprise that when we're in big crowds, we can feel the energy of the people around us. The person performing even has, I think, a responsibility to direct that energy. If it becomes too heavy, like how can they bring people out? Because they're the performer that the energy is kind of following off. And also, like I said, the people around you can really feel it depending on the type of like people that you're around. So I find rave culture generally to have a very positive energy. It's not often that I'm like, well, I don't like this vibe, but because of that, it really does feel like this big release, and I just love being around it. And maybe it's also like the repetitive beat of the music. It starts to feel very meditative as well. And it just really quiets the analytical part of the brain in the same way that long runs or breath work or meditation does. It's a really fucking special place. And I think I enter a flow state. Also, I love to chat. So I am not a chatter on the dance floor. I know that number one rule, but I'll go away, have a little gab, have a little catch up, and then go back and dance. And that's like my dream night. What a vibe. I love it. Anyways, the final reason I love the rave scene, it's probably the hardest one to explain unless you felt it, and it's the physical experience at a rave, which is how I've defined the physical experience: the lighting, design, visual elements, the things that are physical in the world around you that they create for this show. And I find a really good show creates a whole different universe. And it enforces this kind of feeling of escapism. And I also think childlike wonder. I remember the Fred Again show specifically, the one I went to again earlier this year. This one has stuck with me a lot, clearly. And I had spoken about, when I spoke about the show on the podcast, there was this white sheet that was like floating above the crowd, and it moved with the music, and it was visually just so stunning. And it gave a lot of depth to the room. And instead of feeling like you were in this huge warehouse, it made the room feel really intimate. And when the music flowed to a slower moment, you felt this kind of immense sense of peace as this big, beautiful white cloth just like flowed above you. And it really did make the room feel smaller than it was, and you felt more connected to the people. And I think that was an intentional part of the show. And again, a perfect example of something that's tangible, that's like a physical experience that's beyond the music. I mean, the music's a physical experience too, but just how they add these other elements to create this very different world. Another example, which is probably the greatest, I would say, is Burning Man. And I know Burning Man is so much more than a rave, but bear with me. Rave culture is a big part of it, and there's no denying that. There's lots of music venues and DJ art cars and everything. So like all the effects are just wild, and you really feel like you're on a different planet. There's so much detail that is put into every single element of that festival. And I'll never forget seeing Vintage Culture, and the stage was in the middle. Yeah, it was in the middle, and there were 5 pillars on each side, so like 10 in total. And at the top of the pillars, they had these almost saucers, and then fire would shoot out of the saucers, timed with the music. And I remember looking around as the fire went up, and it just lit up the crowd. And you're seeing all these wild art cars that have gathered around you, and people in the craziest costumes. Just like, it's so hard to explain to people what the nighttime experience is like going to Burning Man, because it's nothing like you can ever verbalize until you see it. But everyone was dancing just so wild, and the music was just this like rhythmic. It kind of reminded me of that scene in The Matrix when The Matrix is what was the second one called? I can't remember. Matrix Reloaded. And it's before the community that lives underground are about to fight all of the machines, and they have that crazy party in the caves, and everyone's just like losing their minds. That's a very side tangent, but love that scene. God, no wonder why I love rave culture. I loved that scene from a kid. I was like, that looks crazy. But that's kind of what it felt like. And I remember looking up after looking at everyone, and you kind of see the faint outline of the mountains. And I am dead serious when I was like, I think I'm in a vortex. I have been taken to another planet. I don't think I'm on Earth anymore. I was like, I'm on Mars. I'm somewhere else. I am not on Earth. This is the most wild experience. And I just will never forget that feeling. It was such freedom. And again, it was because I think of the music, how they set up the stage, the crowd, the people, the energy, all the things I just listed. And it's just this power of the rave culture generally, and the experience that it can give you, and then the freedom it gives you too. So like, if you're interested in going to raves and you live in New York, follow New York Rave Girls. They're my all-time favorites. I think they're really good to like show what is out there, and they just have really good advice, and they kind of like label the music. And buy earplugs. Don't be going to raves without earplugs, because you're going to fuck your ears up. And I learned that because I was going early days without them, and everyone was like, wear them. And now I like cannot go without them. Loops are really good. Check them out. I really like them. Drink lots of water. Don't drink too much alcohol, and just like be wild and have so much fun and let loose. And if you ever need advice on shows, come to me. But I just think it's such a fun thing to do. And I also love that there's such a diverse age range of people there too. I think that that's also the magic of that community. It's very welcoming. So yeah, that's kind of what I had for you today, guys. So I guess as I start to wrap up, I think really this whole episode, as I was starting to think about what it's really about, is I think it's this idea of what it really feels like to be fully alive in a moment, whether that's, you know, the people who are watching Madonna walk out on the stage and crying because of the joy, you know, they were seeing as she came out, and then me crying because they're crying, or, you know, standing under these like pillars of fire at Burning Man and just feeling like I'm on another planet, or dancing next to someone you've never met and feeling like they're, you know, your closest friend. I think these are the moments that we really should be living for. And that's why I love the rave scene specifically so much, and probably music generally. And it's, you know, I think it's about the music, but it's about everything else that comes with it as well. And there's something really special when everyone gathers together and everyone decides in that moment just to stop and dance and let go and not be on their phones, although so many people are still taking videos. So let's just like stop with the fucking videos. No one gives a fuck. Take one if you need to. I totally get that. But like filming a whole show is fucking insane to me, because who is ever going to watch it? Are you going to go back and watch it? It's never going to be as good as you think it's going to be. So that's a whole other thing I could get into. But just like to stop scrolling and just be together. And I don't feel like we get enough of that. And I think we need it more than we realize. And, you know, I started this episode talking about AI and how much I want to automate and streamline literally technology, so I have more time for the creative stuff. And, you know, I think all of this is part of the creative stuff. You know, the creative stuff is the projects I'm working on, but it's also just these experiences, the ones that fill your cup back up. And these things that you can't like optimize from a productivity tool. Like productivity tool handle all the shit that I don't want to deal with, and then go out and just be in the world, because we really are not doing that anymore. And it doesn't have to be raves if that's not your thing, but just going out and being in the world and getting outside your comfort zone and trying something new and talking to different people and learning from each other, because we're so disconnected, man. It's wild. It's like, talk to people and learn about their stories and hear what their lives are like. And, you know, I promise most people will be pretty open to hearing what you have to say, what they want to talk about themselves, and probably want to hear what you have to say too. Anyways, that's my spiel. That's my spiel for this week. Oh my God. I think I need to go. I actually need to go. I'm heading out tonight, guys. I'll speak to you guys about the rave next week and let you know what it's like. So I will see you next time. I'll have more updates. And as I said at the top of the channel, as I said at the top of the episode, go subscribe to my YouTube. Wow. Thank you for sticking with me today, because the brain is clearly not braining, but you get it. This is part of life. We all have these days. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it, guys. Love ya. Bye.